So, without any further ado, as I say, let's get straight into the episode. And Larry, welcome. Why don't you start off by telling everyone a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Thank you very much, Adam. And good afternoon, everybody. So, Larry Grady, I'm the Chief Executive of Purley Park Trust. Adam's given us a very helpful breakdown there. I've been here for 12 years now. It's the longest I've ever been in any job. So I'm quite enjoying it, and they seem to be putting up with me so far. So it's all good. I suppose one of the key things, we're very much a community-based organisation based in Purley on Thames, which is just on the outskirts of Reading, really. So we, of the kind of 100 people we support, almost all of them live within about a kind of mile and a half's radius of our kind of head office there, which is where I'm talking to you now. Got a background, so came into social care via dentistry and physics. Landed in social care completely by accident, kind of through voluntary work. Found I love spending time with people to the extent that I suppose in the early days I couldn't believe I was getting paid to do the job. I think it is true that social care, the financial rewards are probably never going to be what you might achieve elsewhere, but it really can be the best job in the world if you like people, and if you can find some like-minded people to do good things with. It really can be a fantastic job. I guess, found my way by accident to social care, qualified as a social worker in 1996. So I've worked in all sorts of different areas of social care, worked for local authorities, lots of different volunteer organisations, helped set up one of the country's first social enterprises, actually a few years ago in Wokingham, which is doing great work here specifically, really, I suppose, to talk about Purley Park Trust and our journey, I guess, over the last 12 years.
That's wonderful. Great. Well, that's quite a background. Thank you for sharing that, Larry. So let's get straight in. Values, culture, that's great. We hear a lot about that, and it's very important. But you're going to focus on that's all very well and good, but appropriate behaviours, without appropriate behaviours, they are nothing. So tell our listeners a little bit more, kind of thinking about that and what you mean.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. I guess in social care, we use the word values all of the time. We kind of skills for care, talk about values-based recruitment. As an organisation, we've got our values kind of up around our head office in terms of our vision, what we're here for, and how we're going to do it. But I think one of the things that has kind of really worried and excited me, I think, over the years is that when you think about, I suppose, kind of what we're here for, at the end of the day, we are people supporting people, and values are great. But when you kind of think about, well, okay, what does that mean for the people we support? What does that mean for their relatives, for the communities we work in? I think, John, they might like the wording on the posters. They might, but does that actually have any impact on their lives? And I think the very clear answer to that is no. Really, I think at the end of the day, it's a human experience that we're providing, and I think in terms of the impact that we have with the people we support, whether that's kind of positive or negative, that's basically down to behaviours. It's as much about it's not just about what we do, it's how we do it. It's about tone of voice and body language and kind of all of those things. And I think in an awful lot of social care and an awful lot of what you see, I think quite often you find that there's this assumption that, if we set out our values, these are the things that we stand for, then people will automatically translate that into the behaviours that support it. And I just don't think that's true. There's a lot of research, psychological research, to suggest that I think even in terms of our personal values, people will tell you what they believe in, but often the link to their actual behaviour is quite tenuous. It's I hope my late father won't mind me bringing this up, Adam, but when I used to do values training, I used to use my dad as a bit of an example. I suppose when I was growing up at home, we used to argue vociferously about politics and values and kind of all of those kinds of things, and quite often my dad, I suppose in my view, kind of came across as kind of a little bit bigoted in some areas, not quite as tolerant of people kind of different cultures and kind of different sexualities and things like that, and that really used to concern me. And I think it was only after I left, when you used to kind of spend time in the world, where you kind of start to think that, lots of the things that my dad said to me initially used to really upset me and kind of used to, but I think when you really think about it, it's kind of actually, John, I never saw him treat anybody, kind of regardless of who they were, their beliefs, their background, with anything other than kindness and generosity and respect. And I think in a way, I think kind of, if you like, I think it kind of works both ways. And it's quite interesting sometimes how we've got a few people that you kind of hear described as being rough diamond that work for us. And sometimes it's quite interesting in terms of you might get a little bit of feedback from a care manager from a review or something like that about, well, they use some interesting language, or kind of they use this word in the review and things like that. And kind of, well, okay, that's language, we can work on it. But actually, kind of when it comes down to the relationships that they have with people we support, how they make them feel, their behaviour towards them, kind of quite often it's fantastic. And quite often the opposite is true. I've met a lot of people in social care over the years who they know the right words, they know the kind of dignity and respect and all of those, and they can talk about it. But then actually, when you see them interacting with people, you see something quite different. It just doesn't come across.
Interesting.
And I think from our point of view, I suppose I think from the people we support, I think it's those behaviours that they'd be far more interested in than whatever we say our values are.
So I hear what you're saying. So essentially, it's like, yeah, whatever you are, you're exactly that. Whatever you espouse verbally, your values to be, what you have like on your website, how you convey who you are in or your initial promotional and outgoing persona. But yeah, actual facts, how you behave, that's like completely different thing. And the anecdote you provide is a good one, I think. I guess probably the next question is how do you encourage or nudge or people to have the appropriate and right behaviors, and how do you identify it if it's not right or wrong, and how do you correct it, or exactly encourage those appropriate behaviors into reality? So anyone leading a team of a size, and that includes you, of course, it's like there's a lot of people here. Ideally, correct me if I'm right or wrong here, Larry, you want everyone swimming in the right direction. You want them to have those values in behavior that you mentioned in your outgoing persona and branding, etc. But so how do you do it?
I guess, I mean, clearly some systemic things that you can do in terms of it. And I suppose kind of the first step along that. So I guess kind of 12 years ago when I first got here, and we reviewed it since, we spent an awful lot of time, don't get me wrong, we spent an awful lot of time talking about our values and doing consultation on them and kind of because they are important. But we spent longer, I think, in terms of, so for each of our values, it's kind of, well, okay, if we say respect and dignity is one of our values, what does that actually mean in terms of how we behave? And it's about how we behave individually to each other, because everybody that works here is really important as well, especially to the people we support, but also organisationally, because it's a big part of my job is difficult choices. With a lot of those choices, you're trying to weigh up, well, kind of what impact is that going to have, and what are the reasons that I'm making for? And I think if we've got kind of behaviours that underpin those in terms of, well, do you know what, I'll make those decisions with transparency, with integrity, and kind of I'll be open and honest about kind of why we're doing what we're doing. And I suppose ultimately, I've got to try and justify those decisions in terms of the impact that they have on the people we support and the organisation and our colleagues. So there's some systemic things to do that. Recently, interesting, I mean, we have an anonymous staff survey every quarter. Recently, we've started introducing a much more behavioural element into that, because engagement figures are brilliant. Do you know what? It's 98% of people say they're proud to work for Purley Park Trust. Kind of 95% would recommend us to come before. That's all lovely. It's great to hear. What's been much more interesting lately is kind of trying to get much more detailed feedback in terms of, what are the behaviours that people like seeing from me? What are the things that they think I need to work harder on? And that kind of works through all of our management teams in terms of how people are finding that. But I think probably the key thing, Adam, and I suppose it's kind of one of the reasons that I find myself working in a smaller organisation now is that you've got to see it, you've got to be present, you've got to be. One of the things I love about working here is that, you know what, I know all of those 180 staff, and they know me. Maybe I don't know some of the newer people quite well enough, but you know what, I see them all on their induction course. I catch them at the end of their probationary period to say, well done, kind of how's it going, kind of keeping those doors open. My office is right in the middle of kind of where we have our care homes in Purley on Thames. So I'm very lucky I can bring my dog into work. She gets on very well with most of the big boys of all. She brings an awful lot of the staff team up just to say hi to her, which kind of breaks down quite a lot of barriers in terms of how that goes. I think, it's I suppose kind of a lot of it is about culture, just kind of creating that open environment in which kind of, but also I think environment where, you know what, we're watching what each other do. We're being open and transparent about it. We're being creating a culture in which there's kind of very open about when I make cock-ups. Sometimes that can be embarrassing, but I think kind of you have to have that, because I think we kind of, people are relying very heavily on us for their kind of safety and welfare. Trust, I suppose, is one of the things that we're selling, and I think one of the things we're very keen about. Stuff will go wrong. You will make mistakes. You will.
And tell me, maybe you can share an example of something like, well, you've been unhappy with how things have been, literally behaviour. How do you address it? How do you go about, nudging people to do the appropriate behaviour? If there is an example you can share, because we come across it all the time, right? It's that people are doing really how we would expect or want them to. And there's a whole different range of severity, of course, but maybe you can share an example of kind of issues you've come across.
And I suppose it kind of was an interesting one, kind of going back a couple of months now. We kind of, one of the people we support visits our social hub very regularly. She's quite able and independent. She's got a very strong sense of what she wants to do at any particular moment in time. So she decided she'd had enough in the social hub and was wandering up the hill on our main site, and the hill is kind of, it's quite safe. There's not much traffic on there, but it is an access road. And she got halfway up the hill and decided, well, that's as far as I want to go there. Was just stood there, and there was a member of staff who was supporting her, kind of sort of walking up the hill with her. And it's an interesting one, because I could see what was happening from my window, and there was a supermarket van just coming around the corner to go down the hill that had to stop. And I could see the member of staff getting quite anxious in terms of, we can't stay here, but was trying to encourage the person to move to the side or to, and that didn't seem to be working. So I was just on the point of nipping out to see if I could help, when I got a call from one of the other houses, and it was a member of staff who had just rung me up to say, oh, I've just seen this person and the staff supporting them on the hill, and I'm not happy with how they're supporting them, which was kind of really interesting. In terms, we had a conversation afterwards about kind of, well, how was it? Kind of your first instinct was to call me to complain about the person, rather than just going out to see if you could give them a hand. Or to, and I think that's probably just one example, Adam, of how there's quite a lot in there. I think in terms of I could see that the member of staff supporting the young woman was getting quite stressed and anxious about it. And we have to accept that at times this can be a stressful and anxious job.
Of course, 100%.
And I think, so to me, kind of, you know what, just kind of going out to help in that situation. And in the end, I did go out there. And as almost always happens in those situations, you introduce somebody new to the situation, and it's very easy to resolve, because kind of the person's kind of, oh, there's somebody new, and kind of we can just kind of remove any suggestion of kind of conflict or being forced to do something. Very easily dealt with. And I suppose so. And I guess from that, there's just an awful lot of learning. I think for the member of staff that was supporting the person to get up the hill was kind of maybe thinking about, well, okay, maybe if we try and kind of walk up the side of the road rather than down the middle of it to start with, that might help in terms of kind of traffic could still get past. The fact that I think one of the things that you have to get over when you're with people with learning disabilities is I think sometimes get a bit caught up in terms of they feel embarrassed about somebody else's behaviour or their inability to control it. And do you know what? And there's very few situations, I think, where sometimes we do have to step in and take control if there's a kind of a severe risk to. Most of the time, we're trying to work alongside people, and I suppose kind of the learning for that person in terms of how did you feel in that situation? Why were you getting stressed about it? And then, well, don't get stressed about it. Do you know what? If the lorry had to wait for half an hour, they've had to wait for half an hour. It's not don't let that anxiety. And I suppose for the other member of staff that gave me the call was just that thing about, do you know, why did you call me rather than just going to help them? And I think, and I suppose in terms of values and behaviour, it's, you know what, we need to be generous with one another in terms of, you know what, it was just a stressful situation that she needed help with. And that, she might be able to learn about. One of the things for you to learn about with this is kind of go and help, and then you might be able to offer some advice. But and I suppose it's I guess, Adam, it really just kind of comes down to trying to learn from every interaction in terms of kind of how well did that go? What did that feel like for the person we support? What did it feel like for you? What can we do differently or better next time? And does that mean training or coaching or how we approach this as a team? One of the things that we have to acknowledge is it's very difficult for us to change our behaviour, harder than most of us think. I think sometimes, though, I think one of the things that I think really brings it home to our staff is that we spend an awful lot of time trying to help the people that we support trying to behave differently. So why wouldn't that be okay for us to get feedback about that and to do things differently as well? Because actually we are all just people helping each other to learn.
Thank you for sharing that. And where does training come into this, and how you know, when you think about behaviours, appropriate behaviours, and matching up appropriate behaviours to values, etc., where does, you reference induction, but where does this, is it ongoing training? Is it all in-house? Do you bring external people? How do you scheme it all out? How is it all planned and organized, particularly essentially around training?
I mean, again, I think training, so our learning and development program is very much focused around behaviours.
Right.
I'm a firm believer that kind of if you're providing training that isn't changing people's behaviours, then you're wasting your time. There has to be some outcome from it. But and I suppose so. Our foundation training, as we call it, so every new member of staff comes on that. It's 3 days. A lot of that time is with me and Debbie, our learning and development manager, and other members of our senior team. As much as anything, that's just trying to break down barriers in terms of, I might be the chief executive, I might sit in the office up there, but I'm a human just like you, and I've done this job as well, and I get stuff wrong. We can talk to one another and have open and honest conversations with, I suppose, that thing about a great deal about trust, a lot about our values, more about the behaviours that underpin them. And I suppose, in a way, kind of trying to set these are the lines, really, in terms of you will make mistakes. We'll help you learn from them. If you make mistakes and try and hide them or try and blame somebody else, then forget it, really. The trust will have gone there. And I think kind of, Adam, it's kind of backed up in, kind of obviously a kind of supervision. We are, I think, probably as far as most social care organisations, we're not management heavy, we're supervisor heavy. I think in terms of we've probably got kind of more first line managers per member of staff than any other organisation that I can think of. And that's not because we love bureaucracy and management. It's because we want really experienced senior practitioners being able to work alongside people all the time, watching what they're doing, coaching them, showing them how to do things, helping them to learning from new people that come in. Because I suppose one of the other things about the deal when you've got new members of staff coming in is that they spot stuff that we will have just seems normal to us, stuff that seems every day. And I suppose kind of I make the point in the foundation training that, when I started here, I just spent a few weeks just wandering around chatting to people, getting right on people's nerves, and they wanted to talk to me about pay and stuff and things like that, and I just wanted to know why do we do that? What's that? How does that work?
Yeah. Yeah.
And an awful lot of the time, there's a rational explanation for it. You kind of think, okay, I can see that. However, an awful lot of the time, it's also kind of think, well, I don't know, we've always done it like that, or we've
Yeah. I see.
and I think so. And I guess it's kind of like sometimes quite empowering for new people coming into the organisation in terms of, look, you've got this fantastic opportunity you're a fresh pair of eyes, so we want your feedback, so we want to know what you're seeing, so that we can change. So it's partly about behaviours. I mean, an awful lot of it, though, Adam, is about culture, I think, and just that kind of being, and I suppose all of those things that we're taught to do in social care, is that kind of active listening in terms of kind of what were you feeling when that happened, and I suppose just the understanding too, because we all have a bad day. Sometimes it's we cannot all come skipping into work every morning with a massive grin on our face, and on the one hand, in social care, you kind of think, well, that probably should be an expectation when we're going into other people's homes and kind of going into other people's homes and not presenting positive, but do you know what? We can't always do that all of the time. So kind of making sure that people get the support that they need to air their feelings and to talk about the issues that are troubling them as well is a key factor.
That's great, Larry. Thank you so much. There's been a lot here for people to to learn from and to certainly think about. Larry, is there anything that we've not covered that you feel is important to talk about?
No, I don't think so. So no. I very much appreciate the chance to meet you and to come and talk a bit about something I feel really passionately about.
Yeah, and that's wonderful. Now, Larry, if anyone wants to come and pick your brains a little bit further, how can they best reach you?
So if you look for me on LinkedIn,
okay,
I'm on there. Yeah, I'm prepared to share my email address, or people can find me through our website at purleyparktrust.org. Adam,
that's wonderful.
by any of those means, really. Yeah, always very keen to talk to. It's a small world, social care. And
no, exactly it is, and as much as we can help each other out is the main thing. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for collaborating. Thank you for sharing, Larry, and thank you very much for being a guest on the Care CEO Success Stories podcast.
I've really enjoyed it, Adam. Thank you very much indeed.